Well, hey folks, real honestly with Jim Ritlin, and with 2019 just around the corner, why not take a look back at 2018 and take a look at all the movies that I didn't like, my 10 least favorite movies of 2018. I'm gonna have some honorable mentions also. The favorites list will be up, possibly in the next day or two. And many of you may know at least, that I do enjoy movies. They could be good, they could be bad if they're cheesy. It doesn't really matter. If I can get some enjoyment out of them, I will absolutely be there to watch them, whether it's in theaters, whether it's on Netflix or Shudder. And Shudder is a particular streaming service I really do enjoy. No, I'm not sponsored. Wouldn't mind being sponsored. But Shudder is also a nice horror streaming service that I really enjoy. But anyway, the reason I'm starting off with the least favorite ones is, let's be honest, everybody enjoys a good rant. I'm not going to rant on these for way too long. I will put a playlist at the end of this video of every single, movie review that I've done for this year, and even ones that I've done from last year, if you want to check those out. So yeah, let's just get cracking on with Pacific Rim Uprising, a sequel to Pacific Rim, which was pretty damn hollow. I mean, Pacific Rim originally was pretty hollow anyway, but it was fun. And Guillermo del Toro did a pretty good job with it. I always screw up his name, so I'm pretty certain I did it right there. But it was, by and large, a really fun, big, noisy, big robots smashing into big monsters movie. And the characters weren't deep, but there were some enjoyable characters. In this one, they have a few characters return from the original cast, and John Boyega's fine in it. Nobody is particularly bad in it. The action feels very hollow, and there really isn't a whole lot to write home about with this. It felt like almost an unnecessary sequel. Like, you could have just left the first one as it was, because this felt almost like DLC. As far as a video game, it's like movie DLC. Like, it was a companion piece, like something you might have slotted in, like, oh, hey, here's some scenes that we cut from the first one and we just smashed them into a movie. That's kind of what this felt like. It was a very thin plot and not really all that good. And then Kutalanik, which is a horror film from Asia where I can't remember if it's South Korea or China. I can't. And because I didn't commit it to memory, some kids end up awakening this creature that likes to capture people and take them through this possessed mirror. And they have to find a way to take them back. And it was really uneven. The horror wasn't very horrifying. The comedy really didn't work. And maybe that was just a translation issue. Maybe comedy over there is a whole bunch different. In fact, I'm sure it is. But yeah, it was not very interesting. And the whole thing about, trying to hit back at this Kuntalanik, this creature, was just not good. It just wasn't. The horror was not there. The comedy just was really bad. It was not a very good movie. Wasn't the worst movie I've seen, but it was pretty bad. Overlord. Now, I almost put this in my top 10. Overlord was pretty bad. It was pretty shit. The acting really wasn't all that good. I thought they played it a little too straight. I did do a review of that. You could check that out at some point. But Overlord was just not very good. It just really wasn't. It didn't have enough fun with its concept, at least in my personal opinion, of basically zombie creatures or genetic engineering in World War II done by the Nazis. For it must always be done by the Nazis, because then you don't even have to justify stomping their heads into the goddamn ground. Wow, World War II, back when Nazis were considered bad people. What a time. Then Veronica. Veronica was something that was praised as being the scariest movie of it originally came out in 2017, but I don't think it even came to Netflix till 2018. And I'm putting it on here anyway because it was not scary. It was about a girl who had to take care of her siblings, but there was a ghost or a demon or something trying to possess her or the house or something, and it was not very good. It was really not very good at all. I don't know why anybody thought this movie was terrifying. I don't know why anybody thought the last few minutes of this movie were terrifying. It was not. I did not jump once. I was just doing this throughout the entire movie. And I usually can give some horror movies a chance. There are some horror movies that scared me that maybe didn't scare other people. This didn't, and I wanted to mention it here because I don't understand why people thought it was good. And then we move on to Terrified. This was a Shudder original where I give them credit for whoever made it, the director and any of the filmmakers there. I give them credit for trying to create something different. It was like there was this apartment complex, an alternate time period where creatures could come through and kill people. At least that's what I gathered from it. It was a very short movie, and people were making really bad decisions, and you couldn't distinguish how some of the characters from others, which is a big problem. And not saying that people look alike, but they didn't do much to distinguish people from looking from being much different. Like they were very, very thin characters, and while I think the movie tried to be different, I particularly was not very, very enthralled with it. So those are the honorable mentions out of the way, and now let's get on to number 10, The Cloverfield Paradox. Yeah, I originally said this was going to be the worst movie of the year, and oh boy, if I thought this was going to be the worst movie of the year, I was grossly misjudging how this was going to be. It was really, really, it was really shit. It was really shit. It was not even supposed to be a Cloverfield movie. But they just smashed all that stuff in there. It's supposed to be called, I think, God's Particle or the God Particle. And it was about people on the space station that are trying to harvest a new energy source to save the Earth. And they end up going into another reality, and Cloverfield monsters somehow get involved. And there's a disembodied hand and a girl that goes absolutely nuts because she is found in the ship with a bunch of cables run through her. And there is absolutely nothing about this movie that is any good except for the fact that near the end of the movie, and by the way, yeah, there are spoilers, Cloverfield monsters are roaming the Earth. Okay. It was a mess of a movie. I do not understand why they thought this movie was a good idea. Even taking the Cloverfield stuff out of it, it was a basic, not very good sci-fi movie, but the fact that it tried to make itself a Cloverfield movie really didn't work. And now we move on to My Teacher, My Obsession. Yes, this sounds almost like a late-night Cinemax movie, and I think that maybe they could have gone that route, but the most basic stalker type movie, a girl who very obviously right from the beginning is the villain and does so much shit where a girl that she befriends, it's like, okay, how in the world can you not tell that this girl is absolutely goddamn bad news, that she's clearly unhinged, clearly unbalanced, and she likes to sleep with older guys, mainly teachers that, and I say older, but it's like maybe guys are like 10 years, maybe 12 years older than her, but as a high school student, that is pretty bad. And then she ends up killing them, and that's pretty much what it is. All this stuff is really, really implied. I mean, like, there's this plot stuff that gets pushed along, which isn't really all that much. There's attempts at drama, attempts at thrills, really not all that much. Nobody in this movie is particularly bad, but this really did have the feel of, it could have been a fun, they could have made this almost a dark comedy, and they didn't. They played it straight, and they shouldn't have, and I figured I'd watch it just for fun, because I was like, you know what, I've seen worse movies, like, clearly, because this is only number 9. But yeah, My Teacher, My Obsession, pretty damn bad, and if they had played this for laughs, it actually probably wouldn't have even cracked this list. But no, unfortunately, it's your basic everyday stalker. Gets attacked, or ends up getting what's coming to her, sort of, and then they almost imply that a sequel's going to happen. Dear God, please no. We don't need My Teacher, My Obsession 2, Electric Boogaloo. Now we move on to The Ritual. It was a Netflix original, and some guys go on a trip after one of their friends is dispatched in a store robbery, and these guys go off into the woods. They find this cabin, a whole bunch of creepy shit goes down, and they find some weird cult that lives in the mountains, and there's this weird, stupid creature that looks like a weird... They tried to make the creature look unique, and all they made it look like, essentially, was that, it was like something they created in Photoshop, or they created, in some weird software, and just mashed a whole bunch of monsters together, like a giant elk, a giant moose, and, a weird skull creature. It wasn't very good, and you didn't really care about any of the characters. The one guy that lived, you just didn't understand why he lived. There's not much to it. It wasn't horrifying. It was not. It sort of looked nice. There were some picturesque views, but that's really about it. Yeah, The Ritual was pretty goddamn bad. Then we go to Unfriended Dark Web at number 7, and yeah, Unfriended Dark Web is pretty shit. I originally was going to place this movie a lot higher, but then unfortunately a couple movies came out that I had to place a bit higher than this. This is about as bad as Unfriended 1. Actually, I think it's worse, because at least with Unfriended 1, they just stayed on a computer and did all this shit and everything, and a whole bunch of ghostly shit was going down. In this one, you had digital warriors or people that would just pop up and suddenly kidnap and attack others. And this all centers around this guy who takes this laptop that was in the Lost and Found of this coffee shop he worked at, because it's always a good idea to take something that doesn't belong to you and then open up shit, and open up files of women kidnapped and women being killed, and maybe you shouldn't have taken that laptop. And yeah, Unfriended Dark Web, really goddamn bad. Nothing scary. You didn't feel for the main guy at all. Like, and I don't know what the deal was. I don't know what the deal was with the acting, but the acting was pretty goddamn bad. Granted, the material was all thin, so I don't really know what I could have expected. But yeah, that's the end of that. So yeah, Unfriended Dark Web shit. Possession of Hannah Grace. I'm going to make this very brief because I recently did just do a review of it. It is a very, very, very paper thin movie about a girl who's a former cop who takes a job at a morgue, and this corpse comes in that was possessed by a demon or by Satan, or I don't know, she might have just been absolutely insane, and maybe this it's a manifestation of boredom. I don't know. I had a manifestation of boredom while watching this. It was really cut to shreds. It was like there was these scenes where suddenly people are like, somewhere, and then they're in this one scene, and then boom, like right there. It's like no, nothing. They just cut it. They just edited it badly, and then suddenly they're like right there. Somebody's near an incinerator, and then boom, right in an incinerator. Yeah, basically this former cop played by Shay Mitchell, has to battle back and prevent being possessed by this one demon, even though they seem to imply by the end that maybe she did, even though they didn't quite show it, or they did. My brain tuned out of this movie pretty quickly, and you can check out my full review of that if you want. So yeah, that's number 6. Number 5, The Hurricane Heist. Was originally going to see this in theaters, ended up seeing on Netflix. Hurricane Heist is like if the Asylum got a big budget and decided to go with this concept. Now, it could have actually worked if it had been about an actual hurricane doing a goddamn heist. Tell me you wouldn't have watched that. But this was like 15% hurricane and 85% bad action and heist stuff, and the most basic villains and the most ridiculous stunts and just bad shit and characters that had absolutely no depth to them. And yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to this. Hurricane Heist was really, really fucking bad. I mean, it was really goddamn bad. Like, I didn't expect it to be all that good, but I'm like, look, it's got that kind of concept. They got to have some entertaining, they got to have some entertainment, in it. Maybe have some fun with it. Joke around. And the humor fell flat, and they treated it too goddamn seriously. And I'm like, the villains, the heroes, nobody was worth rooting for. I was rooting for the Hurricane. And even then, I think the Hurricane might have been the most fleshed out character of it. Yeah, Hurricane Heist was absolutely abysmal. And again, is like 85% heist and talking and shit. Well, 15% of it's the Hurricane. And I get it. I think the movie only had like a $35-40 million budget, so I wasn't expecting anything like Twister or anything like, 2012. But my God, don't call yourself the Hurricane Heist if you're not going to imply that a hurricane could actually steal money. Again, tell me that you wouldn't. I would much rather see that. I would rather campaign for a remake of this about a hurricane stealing money. I don't know what it would be funding. It could be funding its own super weather machine, or maybe it could be trying to send its kids to Hurricane College. I don't know what in the world it would do that for, or how in the world that would work, but it would be more interesting than the Hurricane Heist was. Now we move on to Mortal Engines. My most recent reviews, I just did a review of this very recently. $100 million, and I can't tell you where the fuck it went. It was absolute shit. It was 100% bad. None of the cast was particularly bad in it, but when you have Peter Jackson helping write the screenplay and adapting it from what is apparently a popular series of books, and I've never actually read the books, so I had no emotional attachment to it. If you can't get something good with Peter Jackson involved, that's not very good. And it was a first-time director, I believe by the name of Christian Rivers, who, everybody's got to start somewhere, but this was so soulless, hollow. Again, none of the cast was particularly bad in it, but it was a really goddamn bad movie in a 2+ hours. It had that feel of it felt like it took 4 years to get done. It was like Dungeons and Dragons that came out, the one with Jeremy Irons and Thora Birch. So now we move on to Strangers Pray at Night. Many of you may remember that I just savaged this movie in a review and did not particularly care if anybody got upset. And I mean, there were some people that praised it and thought that it was good. I mean, and some liked my review, but still enjoyed the movie, and that's fine. And if there are people that could enjoy that movie, that's great. I love the first Strangers. I hated this one because anytime the characters had a chance, they had a gun where they could shoot one of the 3 killers from the original movie, even though I don't think it was the original actors. It could have been. I don't know. I didn't bother to look that up. Anytime anybody could have shot or stabbed or whatever with any of these characters, in dispatching any of these killers, they didn't until it was at the point where it's like, instead of a family of 4, they're now a family of 2, and it was the 2 weakest characters. It was the 2 kids, and one was a daughter who actually played the daughter in Are You Afraid of the Dark? which actually was a pretty underrated movie, like 2010, I think. But Strangers Prey at Night, you had these killers that were like, in this creepy, like going around this creepy mobile park that looked like nobody would have gone to this damn thing no matter what. It made Camp Crystal Lake look inviting. And yeah, the parents end up getting dispatched, and the kids have to fight back and all this. And and then there was also this thing, God damn it, this like ending that reminded me, or like near the end, it reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was really goddamn bad. Strangers Prey at Night is best avoided. And then we go number 2, Truth or Dare. Truth or Dare is probably the most unintentionally hilarious movie I've seen in the last 10 years. Because it's about people that are on a trip to Mexico, or it's high school or college teens, even though Lucy Hale is one of them, and I think she's in her early 30s. Nothing against her. She has that same thing like Selena Gomez, where she is looking like she's perpetually like 14, 15 years old. So good on her for getting some good genetics. But Truth or Dare, like these kids are, get roped into this game, or these teens or 20-somethings get roped into this game where they basically have to play Truth or Dare. Do the dare, you die. Do tell the truth or you die. Refuse to play the game and you die. Fall asleep and you die. That was me. I almost fell asleep in this movie. Now, that might have something to do with me being tired, or the fact that it was just very, very boring. But everybody makes these really, really derpy grins and stuff like that, which I'm not going to attempt to impersonate like I did in the original review. But yeah, it's like everybody doing a Willem Dafoe impression, or taking like Vincent D'Onofrio from Men in Black and pulling their face back and stuff like that. In this, you had stupid deaths, stupid characters. Lucy Hale's character at one point is asked if she could save the world but sacrifice her friends, would she do it? And yeah, she would sacrifice her friends to save the world. And then right at the end, she basically sacrifices everybody in the world to save her and the one friend that's left. And yeah, it's really, really bad. It's really, really goddamn bad. So yeah, Truth or Dare, hilarious movie, but my God, it's really, really fucking stupid. Not horrifying at all. I don't know who thought it was a good idea. I think Blumhouse did it. Yeah, Blumhouse did. So naturally, of course, they're going to make quite a mint on it, because they spend very little money on the movie, on any of their movies, and turn a big profit. They're like the Asylum as far as like horror. I'm not knocking the Asylum, by the way. Sometimes I mention that and people think that I'm knocking them. No, if they have a way set up to where they can make money and do a cash grab on some of these movies, bravo to them. But it's just really cheap. But Truth or Dare had some money behind it and had an advertising campaign behind it, and it was just so bad. And then we move on to number 1, Slender Man. I'm just going to mainly refer to the review that myself and the Durbinator did. We go kind of into in-depth on it and everything. It's based on the Slender Man meme, Photoshop thing, whatever, and the urban legend of like something that was created on Photoshop. And it's about a giant spindly creature with like tentacles or spider legs or something or whatever that kills people. And these kids end up summoning Slender Man, and the lore and whatever is just absolutely ridiculous. Has Joey King in it, who I've sung her praises. She was in The Conjuring and was in Wish Upon and in this, and she deserves a whole lot better, and I hope that she can actually get some better roles. I think she's only 19 now, so she's got plenty of time, and everybody's got to start somewhere, but I just think she could do pretty well. But this was really, really terrible. It was an absolutely abysmal movie. Nothing horrifying. You had the one point where a boy, it's like her, I think it was her and like one boy were like making out on the couch, and the boy just does this. Ow. He does that, and it was really, really shit. It was hilarious. Myself and Derb, Chris were just laughing our asses off, but there was nothing good about this movie. I mean, beyond the unintentional comedy, nothing was horrifying. Nothing really looked cool. It all looked murky and dark. And dark for the sake, I think, of covering up the fact they didn't sink a whole lot of money into it. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Slender Man is my worst movie of the year, but I hope you guys enjoyed the various mini rants that we had in here, or that I had in here. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? What are your worst movies of the year? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.